Alright guys, so before we get this video started, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about YesWelder, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Just want to let you guys know that I have partnered with YesWelder, and YesWelder does send me equipment on occasion to review. And that equipment does get put to really good use, and it gets beat up pretty good, so you don't have to worry about me giving them a review that is unethical or coerced by free equipment, because it is 100% not. As a matter of fact, I was super skeptical about all this stuff when it started coming out to me. But with that being said, let's get to the video. We have a new YesWelder product that I want to show you guys, and I think you're going to like it. So let's get to the video. Okay, so sitting to my right, which should hopefully be your right or maybe your left or whatever it may be, is the YesWelder MIG-205DS. Now, this is a multi-process welder, meaning that it does more than just one thing. This particular one does MIG welding, lift-style TIG welding, and stick welding. It is a 205 amp unit when run at 220 volts, and it's a 166 amp unit when it's run at 110 volts, and yes, this machine is dual voltage. Now, YesWelder hit me up, probably a month or two ago now, and I've been a little delayed on this video because life. But I wanted to show you guys this thing, and I also wanted to put it to really good use before I went ahead and did a review on it, because if I review something right out of the box, to me that doesn't give you an idea or an accurate representation of what this thing is all about. So we went ahead and actually put two 10-pound spools of 30 thousandths MIG wire through this thing, as well as we're on our third one and we're running through that. Now, we've also done 3+ Jeeps with this welder, which if you guys have seen any of my other videos, you know that these welders do have these Jeeps do have a significant amount of weld on them. So we're blowing through wire and everything else like crazy, and this welder has handled it hands down better. We'll get into this, but better than my Miller 211 auto set. It's now alongside the Cut 55DS, which is now on its 10th frame, running full power and cutting frames apart and still functioning 100%. So my skepticism when it came to these YesWelder products was pretty significant. Let's just start out by saying that. I got contacted from a Chinese company called YesWelder, and they said, hey, would you like to try out our equipment? We see you're a welder, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Send it out to me. Now, mind you, I've gotten sent some pretty rotten products when it comes to welding from various Chinese companies. However, what kind of had me excited about the YesWelder stuff was the contact that I got from the company was legible. And as any of you guys know, when you're looking at Chinese stuff, Chinese companies, Chinese products, stuff's not really legible. Well, whoever they had contact me was very to the point, spoke English very well, and got their point across, and got me hooked up with the plasma cutter. That was the first thing YesWelder sent. And I basically said, you know what, let me put this thing to work, and if it works well, then we'll move on to the MIG welders. And then, as you guys saw a previous review of the Firstus MP200, which is a MIG, TIG, stick, flux core, and a plasma cutter all in one unit, that thing is a beast. That thing is absolutely amazing. They just released them. They just started manufacturing, and I think they're starting to ship pretty soon. So get your hands on those. But let's get back to the 205DS. Now, the 205DS has a list price of $499, so sub $500 for a 3-process welder. You can also get coupons and codes and everything else to save even more. I think right now on their website it's $439, so it's on sale, $439 or $449. But let me tell you, I honestly have been beating the crap out of this thing, and it's been taking every single bit of it. Now, the nice thing about this welder is that it's small, it's compact, it's dual voltage. Like I said, it runs on 220 or 110. It's got this nice little cover over the controls so that everything doesn't get dirty. It's got a really nice front panel, which we'll show you in a little bit, and it has all your DIN style connectors for your ground clamp and your TIG torch and your stick welding stinger and a few other odds and ends. Don't mind me if I'm a little bit off on this particular review, but I haven't done one of these in a long time. So let's come over here and we'll show you this welder up close and personal. So there it is, the MIG-205DS. I'm going to try to not bang the camera with the chair every single time, but what you're looking at basically is a 205 amp MIG welder. That is what it's best suited for, that is what it's best used for. But it also can do stick welding, TIG welding, and flux core wire welding, which is gasless MIG. Comes with this nice 200 amp MIG torch. Also ships with a pretty decent ground clamp and some nice thick heavy duty ground wire. It also does ship with the stick welding stinger. It does not come with a TIG torch, so you'll have to provide that if you want to do TIG welding with this. You can buy it as an accessory on YesWelder's website. One of the main features that I was after was a lot of these smaller welders will only allow you to use a 2-pound spool. 2-pound spools for me last me about 20 minutes. 10-pound spool, which fits right in there, no problem, will last me probably 2 Jeeps worth, which is amazing. And anybody that does any type of welding knows, you know, putting a 10-pound spool through a welder at full power is definitely going to test the welder's capabilities. And we've tested this welder's capabilities like crazy. Now, I don't have a whole lot of welding footage with this, and I don't currently have anything to weld, but I wanted to get this review out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick in a little bit of time lapse here and there of me welding with this machine at full power at 205 amps. Most of the time I weld with it at around 193. So we are maxing this thing out at 220 volts and laying, you know, 6-7 feet of bead at a time on these frames with these Jeeps. I've never had it go into protection. I've never had it overheat. I've never had it shut down, shut off, or even flinch.
Nothing ever comes to me, yeah, in a steady stream, but you gotta keep on going, you gotta live that dream. I know I ain't supposed to feel it, but oh how it feels. Instead of letting it go, I let it stay.
So let's get into some of the features on this thing. But first I'm going to turn it on so you can actually see the front panel. All right, hopefully, yeah, it's going to be all funky in the camera. None of that stuff is blinking. It's just a frame rate that I have the camera set at. But as you can see, you have your amperage readout, which is changeable right here. You have your voltage readout, which will tell you what voltage you're at. Then you have a button up here that will allow you to adjust several things on this unit. Now you can adjust your amperage, you can adjust your material thickness in millimeters, you can adjust your voltage offset, so you can add or subtract 10 volts, which is great for when you're welding, and you can play around with inductance. Now what's super nice about these inverter machines is that they have an inductance setting. Now the inductance setting basically is at low inductance, your arc is going to be very sharp, very crisp, and your bead will be very well controlled. When you up the inductance, you're going to have a much softer sound, a much softer bead, and it's going to wet in a little bit better. So it kind of gives you some fine-tuning control over your MIG welding arc, which the older transformer machines didn't have that. Like my Miller 211 auto set didn't have any kind of inductance setting because it was a transformer machine. So you have that. Then you have your gas button, which you can use to check your gas flow to make sure that's good without having to pull the trigger. You also have a wire feed button that'll allow you to feed wire without pulling the trigger and using gas. And then of course you have your settings over here, 2T and 4T. Now the difference between 2T and 4T welding is 2T means you pull the trigger and let go, and the welder goes and stops. So let's show you that. We'll pull the trigger. You see the wire go, we let go of the trigger and the wire stops. In 4T mode, when you pull the trigger and you're actually welding with it, what'll happen is it will continually keep the arc going until you break the arc. Once you break the arc, it stops, or if you pull the trigger again and release it, it'll stop. 4T is nice for when you're doing super long runs with it and you don't want to hold the trigger down, but I honestly never use 4T. I always use 2T because you never know when you're going to need to let off the trigger because you're blowing a hole in something or what have you. So, but it is a nice feature to have. And then you also have your settings for your type of weld material. So you've got MIG with CO2, mag and stick welding, and then lift TIG and gasless. So you have 5 different modes that you can use on this welder. You have your typical MIG with your CO2 argon mix. Then you have mag, which is an active gas. So if you're using something like helium, carbon dioxide, things of that nature, you would set it to mag. Then of course your stick welding, your lift TIG welding, and then your gasless flux core MIG welding. Then you have your wire size adjustment. You can do 23 thousandths, 30 thousandths, or 35 thousandths. And you notice the unit changes numbers. When you adjust the wire size, it will automatically adjust the voltage that it welds at, along with automatically adjusting the wire feed speed. Now for me, that is probably the only gripe I have with this welder, is I like to be able to have the fine tuning to where I can adjust the amperage, the voltage, and the wire feed speed. However, this one is what they call synergistic or synergetic or something with the word synergy, where basically depending on your voltage and your amperage, it automatically sets your wire feed speed. Now I haven't really had too much of a problem with this one, but there have been situations where I wanted to just speed up the wire a little bit or slow down the wire a little bit, and you can't do that with this machine. But again, sub $500 welder. So to have only one gripe with it so far is pretty darn good. So it does a lot. It's actually very feature rich. And like I said, I've been literally welding with it at like 195, 193, somewhere around there. 24.2 volts, 193. My inductance setting has been right around +4, which gives me a nice smooth arc, some good wet in, and actual, you know, nice smooth welds. So this is a super, super nice unit. And surprisingly enough, for being sub $500, this thing is blowing my Miller 211 auto set out of the water. And you know what? I hate to say it, but those big brands, Miller, Lincoln, ESAB, Fronius, all those big name welders that are out there, they're expensive. A 200 amp Miller right now is $1,100, $1,200. And for the home hobbyist and, you know, the general everyday small usage, is it really worth that kind of money to buy something like that, where you can get the same thing in a multi-process for under 500 bucks? And here's the crazy part. I know that these are designed for the home hobbyist. It says it all over their website. Home hobbyist, small fabrication shop, yada, yada. I use these things every single day, and I do not give them a break. They get used for hours at a time. They get beat up at full power. They go through consumables like you wouldn't believe. And I have not had a single hiccup with any of these YesWelder products. Nothing, not a single thing. I've had to call tech support once or twice, and I got through no problem. They were very helpful. Everything went very smooth. But again, at the sub $500 price, like I said, you do not get a TIG torch. You also don't get a gas regulator. You get the hose, but you don't get the regulator. So you're gonna have to pick up a regulator for this as well. It doesn't come prepackaged. But other than that, I mean, this thing, it's an amazing little welder. You know, it's very surprising because I was a big Miller guy for so many years, and I wouldn't buy anything but a Miller. And you know, the more and more that I see these little YesWelders coming out, and the abuse that I'm putting them through is insane, and they're standing up to every bit of it. I mean, these machines are not only being abused in use, but just take a look at how nasty these things get. I mean, this is all rust and dust and metal shavings and all kinds of other stuff. You name it. It's pretty bad. I've had this welder a month and it's already got burn marks on top of it and everything else. But, you know, these things truly have come such a long way from what they were years ago. I mean, you know, if somebody told me 3-4 years ago, hey, go buy this Chinese welder, I'd tell you you're freaking crazy, because they weren't worth anything. I mean, you guys can remember some of the Chicago Electric stuff from Harbor Freight. It was absolute trash. It was just garbage. If you were able to get any sort of weld at all done with it, you were lucky. But as far as it goes with YesWelder, I honestly, 100%, and this is no bull crap, because they sent me these things for free. If these things were junk, I'd throw them in the trash. But I'm so confident in these two things that I sold my Miller and I'm selling my ESOB plasma cutter, and I'm strictly going YesWelder. And the reason being is because, you know what? Even if this welder only lasts me a year, I could buy 3 of them before it equaled my Miller, which I had to fix 3 separate times because it broke within the course of a couple of years. So we're going to see what the longevity of this thing is. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty great, because so far it's been pretty great. But in a nutshell, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're going to go over to YesWelder. I have to see if my discount code still works, but if you know, you go over to YesWelder, type in discount code MorFab, I believe it's just MorFab, and see if that works. If not, I'll put it down in the description so that you guys can see it. But the time of filming this video, this thing is $439, which is absolutely incredible. So go pick yourself one up. You can do MIG welding, TIG welding, stick welding, flux core welding, whatever you want to do with this thing. It's going to do it. 200 amps at 220 volts, 166 amps at 110 volts. The thing's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It surprised the hell out of me. And we're going to keep using these things until we have a reason not to. So go over to YesWelder, check them out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I know I told you guys that we weren't going to do much welding with this thing, but I can't leave this video without some actual welding. Now, these are 2 pieces of 3/8 inch mild steel, hot rolled. It's got some mill scale on it, cleaned it up a little bit, but we're going to take this machine, fire it up, and we're going to crank this puppy to 205 amps, 25 volts, maximum settings. And we're going to go ahead and weld a quick little bead on here, see how she does. Hopefully we don't destroy the GoPro lens. So, see what happens. Now this is at full power with 30 thousandths wire, which with metal this thick you'd probably want to be using 35 or 40 thousandths, but 30 thousandths is where we're at. So just show you some of the capabilities of what this machine can do. So we'll put a quick tack on it. We'll put a tack on the other side. And now we're just going to go ahead and lay down a bead. Let's make sure that you guys are all in frame here. Should be good. Alright, we'll finish up over on this side here. And there we go. So, as you guys can see, this thing really has no issue whatsoever with dropping down and really burning into some 3/8 plate. So we got pretty good penetration there. That's what she said. Then if we flip it, we'll see that we just started coming through on the other side heat-wise, which is pretty good. You know, you'd expect to see a little bit more, but again, we're stuck at 205 amps, and this is 3/8 plate. So I'd say we did pretty good for a sub $500 welder. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know, but I think it looks good.